Hey everyone, Carl here with Littleroot Lessons, bringing you a deep dive featuring Scizor today. Scizor is something that I personally have been trying to use since its introduction in like Series 5 or 6, but the fire type coverage that surrounds Scizor has kind of just kept it down and kept it out of the format. Also, Scizor as a Pokemon kind of struggles with Dynamax, so it's interesting to see how Scizor has developed over the course of these previous formats with Dynamax and how much it's changed when we look at it in a Series 10 format. But before we get started on all that, make sure to do all the fun YouTube stuff for us, like, comment, subscribe, it helps us out a ton. And let's just get right into Scizor. Scizor's role on the team is as a powerful offensive attacker, and it usually looks to deal a ton of damage before going down on its own. Usually the best scenario you can do is a trade of a 1v1 for a powerful option on your opponent's side, or even maybe a 2v1 if it just gets to pick up a lucky KO with like a bullet punch. Being a bug steel type, it only has one weakness, which is fire, but that one weakness is amplified by the fact that Scizor's defenses kind of are lackluster. It doesn't have good bulk for a steel type, so it's one and it's just one weakness. It's just really exploitable and really common. Fire coverage is usually slapped on a ton of different Pokemon if it needs it. Incineroar is really good into an opposing Scizor. It just happens to be Intimidate plus fire type coverage. Entei is really popular right now, so Scizor overall is always going to struggle in these formats where fire types are popular, and I don't see that changing anytime soon in Series 10. Introduced via the Isle of Armor DLC, Scizor saw a little play in Series 6 during all the bans, when you don't have Tyranitar, Togekiss, and Dragapult, and other things like that running around the format. Scizor can see a little bit more play and can be a little bit more flexible in what it does. And as Series 10 has kind of gone on, it saw some early play in early Series 10 because of the uptick of Xerneas. Scizor having really powerful Technician boosted bullet punches means that it was a real good answer into Xerneas. And when we get into some of these sets later, you'll see that the overall power that Scizor can put out makes it a decent threat in these Series 10 format. Common partners for Scizor tend to be like the rain teams. You see Scizor paired alongside with like Politoed back in Series 6. You can see it alongside Kyogre once in a while in Series 10. And because of this, there's a lot of just like common rain partners alongside it. Tornadus, Serena, Kyogre obviously, and things like that. Other common partners include Pokemon that usually struggle against like an opposing Xerneas because Scizor itself is such a good check into that Pokemon. Things like Kyurem White. I know Cybertron featured a Scizor Ditto Kyurem White team a while back, and that team has become very popular as people are playing with it and trying to figure it out. And then other Pokemon are just like Regieleki was on that list. I saw that was a common partner. I saw Incineroar on that list as well as just like a good check into a fire type, things of that nature. So Scizor overall is very flexible when it comes to teams, and it's usually just like, I need a steel type that happens to have really good damage output. When we look at the metagame breakdown for Scizor, we see that Bullet Punch is 100% of the time on Scizor. I don't think this is actually the case. I think this is just people just copying and pasting sets over and over. Sometimes Bullet Punch isn't as good in a format, especially with things like Indeedee and Serena running around, so I feel like Bullet Punch being at 100% is maybe a little bit of just odd data there. Other moves are considered like U-Turn, which is, again, the most popular bug move for Scizor. Superpower, which is okay. You also get access to Brick Break if you want fighting coverage that way, but Superpower is going to deal the most damage, which is what Scizor wants to do. Other random coverage moves are like Dual Wing Beat, I think you get Night Slash, Psycho Cut, things of that nature, so if any of those tickle your fancy, you can definitely play with those. Iron Head here at 67% is one of my more favorite moves to play on Scizor, mainly because I just don't like being locked into a priority move with Psychic Terrain or with Serena out in the field and then not be able to do anything. So having Iron Head as my steel type move is one of my more personal preferences that I've gained from playing Scizor a lot. As for the like utility moves, Protect, Sword Stance are like the common two utility moves. I do have a Sword Stance set coming up in the sets moves in the move set section, and I think it's really cool. I have no idea if it's actually any good or not because I haven't gotten to use it a lot. As for common items, Choice Band 86%. If I remember correctly, the math how this works is I think Scizor, Adamant Scizor gets to 300 after a Choice Band boost on its attack stat, which is insane. You pick up KOs left and right, and that's the one downside you have as Scizor is you don't have any good 120 base moves. You have base 70 power, base 80 power, so having that Choice Band means you pick up KOs more often. Life Orb can kind of do the same thing, but we tend to want to just hit as hard as possible, and we don't get to survive a whole lot of hits afterwards, so making sure we get the most out of our damage makes the most sense. And then there's Citrus Berry and Safety Goggles on these more bulky utility-oriented sets. Safety Goggles is something I've seen paired alongside with the Sword Dance set. Citrus Berry looks to be like a little bit of more of a bulky set, kind of similar to like an Assault Vest. You play a little bit more bulk, you play max attack, you lose out on a decent amount of speed investment that you normally get, and kind of just have your partners tank hits for you while Scizor cleans up. When building with Scizor, I can't stress this enough, you need to avoid all fire type attacks. You do have Aqua Berry at your disposal most of the time if you want to play that, but Scizor normally isn't even bulky enough to tank a Foreheim's weakness hit with the Aqua Berry on it. I'm pretty sure things like Entei's Sacred Fire can easily blow through an Aqua Berry and just OHKO you. And while Choice Band is super common and very, very powerful, Life Orb and Safety Goggles do have their uses. They can catch opponents off guard because most Scizors don't run Protect. And running Life Orb and Safety Goggles allows you to run that Protect option to allow you kind of stall out the game a little bit longer and kind of adjust to the role that Scizor has to fill. And although it lacks good bulk, Scizor's typing is actually really good defensively. You can switch in on ground type attacks and not have to worry about taking super effective damage there. Same thing with like fighting. You can switch in on psychic type attacks, ghost type attacks, fairy type attacks is the big one. And steel type attacks too. Which makes Scizor just like a good switch-in partner. If you bulk it up correctly, you can survive a lot of the neutral hits that would come in at your Scizor. When we're looking at movesets, Scizor's, like I mentioned, main job is to attempt to pick up as many KOs as possible. So we see Choice Band sets like this where we try to go almost max attack with Adamant Nature, Iron Head, Superpower, U-Turn, Bullet Punch, just try to hit things as hard as we possibly can. There's Life Orb sets as well. These Life Orb sets tend to run a little less attack and a little less bulk, but a little bit more defenses and speed because they're trying to be a more nimble set. Protect, Iron Head, Brutal Swing is another cute coverage move that I was testing and way back at the early Series 10. You can Brutal Swing into Calyrex Shadow and pick it up with your Scizor, and it is hilarious to watch it just get deleted like that. And then the last set here is definitely a more bulky set. We have just enough attack to hit that first bump for your attack stat. We get to run Swords Dance, Bullet Punch, and Superpower. And we're Safety Goggles, so we don't have to worry about Spore or Rage Powder from like a Volcarona or a Mungus and things like that. So I like this set a lot. In theory, it's really, really good and it's really, really powerful. It lets you do Swords Dance things if you need it. You can Superpower something to hit it really, really hard. You have Swords Dance plus 2 boosted Bullet Punches if you need those. But like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of running just Bullet Punch. You do lose to Serena and Indeedee a lot of the time because you really want to be clicking Bullet Punch 100% of the time. When you're looking to beat up an opposing Scizor, almost any fire attack will spell the end for that Scizor. So if you can position yourself to catch that Scizor with like a Flare Blitz or a Heat Wave, Flamethrower, anything like that, you're going to be in a real good spot. Intimidate spam's also really powerful. Like I mentioned, Incineroar is a really good check. Landorus is also a really good check because it resists a lot of the hits that Scizor would deal out. Gyarados is becoming more popular. I'm not the biggest fan of Gyarados right now in this format because Regieleki is kind of common still. But as Regieleki goes away, Gyarados is another good Intimidator that's actually decent into Scizor as well. You resist that Steel, you resist that Bug, you resist that Fighting. So things like Intimidate spam is just really good into an opposing Scizor. To wrap up on Scizor, Scizor's had a hard time in a meta defined by all these fire types, Arcanine, Incineroar, Entei. If you gotta just, Groudon's getting popular again. If you just think about how many fire types are common in the format, you can just see why Scizor has struggled in all those formats between 7 and 9. And while it's really weak to fire, Scizor's typing allows it to be a great switch-in for certain teams. So if you have good fire resists, you can use Scizor to your advantage and kind of just play around and dodge ground type attacks, rock type attacks, fighting type attacks, steel type attacks, and things like that. And with that being said, I want to thank you all for hanging out and listening to me ramble about Scizor today. Check us out on Twitter. Handles are there on screen. Check the Discord link in the description down below. Our community is great and growing really fast. We'd love to have you join us there for talking about deep dives, what you won with, what you lost with, current VGC trends, all that kind of fun stuff. And remember to do the YouTube stuff. Subscribe, comment down below who you want to see me cover in deep dives later on in the Series 10. We have about 5 to 6 weeks of Series 10 left, so I only have about 6 more restricteds I can cover. I have Kyurem White lined up while we're on vacation, so I'd like to hear more restricteds to cover. I could go back and cover some of the same restricteds I've already covered in Series 8. I think it was Zygarde, Yveltal, and I don't remember the last, Dialga. That was the last one. I covered those 3 in Series 8, but it'd be nice to go back and maybe look at them for Series 10. And with that all being said, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening throughout the world, and we will see you all next week. Bye, guys.